Gio, can you hear me online? Can't hear you.
He's muted.
Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, now I can hear you. Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, I want to just introduce Gio. He was one of our amazing alumni, and he won the GDC concrete awards for designing a concrete bike, which we have a picture of in our foyer and all over the Plastic Design Center, which is really amazing because that is not something that you would expect an interior designer to do. But he did extremely well, and also he's done amazingly well with Swift Tate in Dubai, and he's become an expert in lighting design. So, Gio, I'm not going to waste too much of your time. We've got 30 minutes starting now.
Cool. So let me share my screen. Can you see my screen, Des?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I've broken it into different segments, which I'll take it through. So it will go a bit about projects, a little bit back, and then it's going to speak about the future of lighting, which nobody knows really about. So who am I? I'm Gio, as Dad said, so I'm not going to really speak about myself. I don't really like speaking about myself, but you can see I've come from GDC, I did my honors there, and ever since I've done lighting design throughout my career. These are one of my favorite projects I've worked on over the years. So each project has a specific and uniqueness, let's say that, and which is quite special for me, from Johannesburg Rosebank all the way down to the super islands in Neom, which I'm currently designing at the moment with my teams. Where our head office is, basically is Dubai, but we've got offices all around the world, and we do projects across the globe. We started designing packages in French as well, so we're learning different languages, Arabic, as well as whatever needs to be, which is quite important when you're designing lighting. And the reason why I say that is because around the globe, there's a lot of hotel operators, clients, governmental bodies, and authorities that actually have certain regulations and standards that need to be met in terms of lighting design. So like these ones on your screen, these are my top clients, and we have to conform to certain lighting requirements for their projects. So they hire people like me to ensure that they are saving money on the project, but the project is well lit, and I'll explain to you in a bit what that means. So where's lighting? So lighting's all around us. So from interior design, educational suites, wellness is quite important, like hospitals and centers like that. Facades of building, public realms, master plans, landscapes as well. What's also extremely important is the review, evaluate, engineering, and supervision to make sure whatever's designed, the buildability of it is achievable and saving the client money at the end of the day, as well as achieving this great effect. For example, this image on the right-hand side is one of our projects in Braamfontein, Johannesburg, where the blue light that you see acts as the corridor lights, but also can change to any color of the spectrum. So if there's a national day in South Africa, it can adapt to it and slowly change and morph. And what this actually did is brought the community to the park around this dangerous environment to come sit and see the moving lights. So it becomes a dynamic experience at the same time. Lighting has many effects on the well-being of a person. So we design quite a bit of hospitals and wellness centers at the moment, where we're introducing something called a human-centric lighting or circadian rhythm lighting, where it's in the morning, you can see the rich warm tones, and it goes to a very bright light at lunchtime to a rich warm tone in the evening. So what this means is different colors of light has a different effect on the body. So from warm light is about 2,700 Kelvin. It's friendly, personal, intimate, and you normally find it in homes, libraries, and restaurants. Where you go to like a 5,000 Kelvin, that will be like in your gyms, your hospitals, your galleries, your beauty salon shops. But what we started doing is actually challenging the lighting spectrum and introducing 2,000 Kelvin into the hospital scenario. And what we've done from my research and study, it helps the patient recover 4 times faster. And you can trick the mind of the patient and their circadian rhythm, like their heartbeats and how they would think, to think that the sun is actually in their room. So a good example is one of our projects on the right-hand side, where when you come to an office space, because we also do this in offices as well, you want to be full of energetic 8 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning. So the burst of white light, which is sitting around 5,000 spectrum. Lunchtime, it dips down to about 3,000, 2,700 to let you know it's time to relax for your lunch break, whatever. And it jump by 3 o'clock, you'll normally jump back to a 6,000, because we know by psychological level, at 3 o'clock, you're pretty much tired. So you need that boost of energy to wake you up for the last 2 hours of the day. When it's home time, it drops down to warm 2,200 Kelvin. What you'll notice is, you won't be able to see it, there's a really thin pendant, and you're getting the uniformity and lux levels on the table all the time. So the lighting levels in the room are always a constant, and it's more monitoring what the space is actually doing. So placement and beam of lighting is very important. And the reason why I say this, you can get it very wrong and very right. For the example of one of our projects we've done, this is what an architect gave to us, and they said, can you do the concept for it, or can you review our package? If you're in a like a hospitality type environment, lying on the bed as well. And the reasons for that is, we take an arrow and show where the light is directed, and missed opportunities like artworks being missed, the stair lights being missed. There's too many spotlights above the bed, which is very glary, because you don't want to lie on your back and just have this glare bomb in your face. The back perimeter is actually very dark. It's not welcoming as well. So what we did, we revised it, updated the renders, and you come to this more simplistic design where the artwork is lit up correctly. The perimeter of the room is lit up correctly. There's no spotlights in the roof, because we know that the indirect lighting approach says you don't need to have these bulky spotlights in the room. We even changed the chandeliers or the pendants up next to the bed to make them shrouded, to directed light only above the tables. Small things like this add up at the end of the day, which you'll find out later on. One application, lighting has many applications, and one of them is vertical illumination on bathrooms. So the image, I like to show this image on the left-hand side, especially when I'm speaking to clients and female clients, is that everyone does lighting from above. This is the wrong approach. It casts horrible shadows in the person's face. And what this does, you can't actually see how you're applying your makeup, shaving, and you're not actually seeing the task area, your face properly. So the correct way is to actually do illumination on the vertical, which is your face. And you can see the comparison, which one you like to do your makeup or shave your face in. So this is an example of a slow domestic lounge in South Africa, which we've done. We got visual illumination by this ball of light, accenting by this, making the mirror seem as if floating off the wall. And we've got our task lighting on the vanity. One thing to note that in design or lighting design, there's actually like about 4 or 5 principles that we follow, with maybe ambient, accenting, task, and functional, and also decorative. So we try and approach these strategies and all the projects we do. Sometimes we combine these effects together or principles to come up with the best outcome or the best scenario for whatever the client is required. One thing is very important, quality of light. So we know fluorescence that's been used, that's been phased out by next year. LEDs normally sit around 80 CRI. And what that means is that there's a color rendering index that's very poor. So you can see the image on the right, it shows the color rendering index, which means it's like, what if you took something out to the sun, what the sun would do to that particular item. So you can see on the person's face, looks great, she looks sick, not attractive as well. But if you start increasing the CRI to 90 to 99, where you can actually see the color start popping out, you actually can see what's happening on the person's face. This piece of pizza is much more welcoming, and you want to eat it more because it's as if you're taking out in proper sunlight on it. These scenarios also use less power in the building as well, because we're also trying to think about sustainability, how we can save power in the building and reduce heat, because these lighting produces a lot of heat. So it means a lot of AC is being run at the end of the day. The process is quite simple, but yet very complicated. We get renders from an interior architect and designer, MEP consultants, landscape consultants as well. We actually do markups and renders on top of that. So we show them what's wrong with it. We show them the correct lighting approach, and we start documenting it. So around the world, there's about millions of products that you can put into a project. We design to an application, not around the product. So we want to get the right application effect right. And we validate it through a lighting software, which we plug into Revit, 3ds Max, and these type of softwares. And you'll see these hotspots. So we know on the vanity, we're achieving the 500 lux we need to achieve. But in the general areas, we're getting a nice blue, which indicates just general 100 lux, more or less. And we document it through the standard drawing process. So we take the architectural drawings, we do all of it, as well as the interior designers as well. And then we go onto site to test whatever we've done in the terms of a markup or a render 3 or 4 months before, actually holds up from the light calculations documentation. If we see on the vanity here, that we're getting nice illumination. There's enough facial illumination here, and you can't see actually where the light source is coming on to illuminate these areas. So it's about the art of hiding light as well. So the images that you've seen before, I'd like to show this to key points clients as well, is that in scenario A was what we're getting from the architect. Scenario B is what we come up with the solution, and we managed to save them in South African terms, roughly 45 million rand, 50 million rand in designing a much simplified design that saves electricity. The capacity is much lower, less quantity of lighting inside the rooms, and it's got a bit more overall experience as well. That's compared to the first one. Another example is like when we do a lot of wellness and spas and resorts like this, you guys tend to do a lot of grid lights inside projects. What we try and do, think of the different principles of light, the accenting. So we accented the wall to make it a feature. We accented the doors, and we did a combination of that, and that provides general lighting in the space. We've got this indirect cove, which mimics a skylight to give your general lighting above the vanity area, and the shade dependence. It's just the accenting or decorative lighting as well. And we reinforce it by lighting up the island to make it a way for a point and give you low level lighting around these particular areas. So I like to show projects that are complete as well as incomplete, because it shows the thought process and where it's going on. So this is one project in South Africa, Excess Slow Lounge, where you can see this. You can't really see the light sources. The light sources are hidden all around the place. There's no use of downlights in the space. So this shows that you can design a project with no downlights. It's all about following the principles of lighting and seeing how you can achieve that. So inside, we built a slim cove that shoots lights across the ceiling. This provides indirect lighting and general lighting to the space. We reinforce the lower level lighting by having these nice decorative pendants or table lamps around the seating area, which is quite nice and quite cool. It also helps to bring the visual down to a horizontal level. And then we start integrating lighting into the shop fitting as well. So you can see little nooks and crannies that have been, little LED tapes have been hidden. So all of these elements get add to the overall lighting experience. And this helps to separate from a 5-star to a 1-star place. So anything like, I could say like a KFC all the way to like a 5-star restaurant. And everyone's got a different ideology, you could say. When we do a lot of retail, we try and think how we can hide light source, but we know that the aim is to sell as much product as possible. So we use a very high CRI directional lighting. So as you pull the shoe off the shelf, it gets bathed in light. So you actually can see the product as it is in the highest CRI as possible. And it becomes like a theatrical space. You can see the shelves are well lit up, but you still got this quite moody effect where it's a very dark space. However, as you walk through the space, you quite feel this luxury and this intent which you want to feel as associated with the name and the brand that we designed to. In some projects, we have to design many applications in one space, like a multi-purpose space. The image on the left is art gallery. It's been used as a club during the day. It's also used as a co-working space as well. So we have to design different lighting scenarios that could adapt to a lighting management system that you can control it individually to different scenes and scenarios. So when people are presenting on TV, they're able to switch on the switch to get good facial lighting in this particular area. That's why only the chairs are lit. Areas you actually can't see the floor. That's how good the lighting is. The screen is lit up back to create this accenting part, and the lighting is on the artwork where it needs to be. So lighting can be played in different layers, you could say, and change as you want it. A nice way to start defining spaces is using linear lines like the image on the right. This helps you to do wayfinding and direction lighting through the space. So it helps direct people around the space, because you can see like there's a little corner there. It shows there's actually something down there. It helps to draw people around the corner and see what's beyond the corridor. And it's better doing this way instead of boring down lights, which people normally do. In the Imperial Club and Royal Atlantis, we were brought on very late at the stage, and we helped to reduce the amount of lighting that's in the space. They had, I think, about 150 to 200 downlights. We probably only reduced it to where it's needed by the chandeliers, crystal chandeliers above the bar. And we designed this decorative cove to provide general lighting through the space, added lighting into the onyx, as you can see, and there's actually task lighting on the point of sale. So the people can see what they're doing when they're helping and serving customers. What we like to do is in concept stage as well, especially when we're doing our renders, seeing what we do inside the resort as well as outside the resort. So we know this is in an area that's got a lot of stars. You can see the Milky Way quite clearly in Dubai. So we reinforced it with the idea of fiber optics in the ceiling, these white dots, so to give you this mimic effect if you're sitting under an open roof. Reinforce it by a decorative pendant like this, which mimics a starry effect, but we still got our accenting, general lighting through the sconces as well, and lower level lighting in the pit. So we want to create this experience. It's about creating a theatrical experience and when you go into different spaces that you go into. In hospitality, the most important place is the room that you stay in. So we design lighting management systems where it can link to your iPad, phones. It can detect the person, what they're actually doing. So as you open the door, you get addressed by a welcome scene, which is all the lighting on in the scenario. And then you'll have like 2 or 5 scenes depending on the person. So normally we'll have standard by 4 scenes, where it's an evening scene 1, so the lights are slightly dimmed. Evening scene 2, which is a bit more dimmer, and also night scene. So only key features are left on. There's always override things where you can create this experience of just having the bedside light on or reading light on. But it's creating this experience for the person to enjoy the space, to spend the money that they want to be spending, and feel comfortable that there's no bright light and there's no glary, obvious lighting in people's faces. A good example is in Atlantis, we did the signature suites for the Neptune and Poseidon suites, where we hit the light sources. So there's no downlight above the bed. The crystal chandelier has been actually lit up by the sides. There's cleverly hidden lights on the side that shoots across the chandelier. And what this does is when you're lying on the bed, you don't have this glare in your eyes. You're actually looking at a nice, beautiful golden arch. The crystal's lit up nicely, and it's not detracting because this is your main view. That's where the client's making the most money in the space. So it's nice, warm, and welcoming as well. And a lot of projects we do, it's anything from a small scale to very large scale. So this is a headquarters for Abu Dhabi. It's called Nassau City, where we had to take care of the interiors of 7 buildings, exteriors as well as this crazy middle building where you can see there's a lot of LED lines. So this is a building which I'll speak about later on in the presentation, but you can see how the landscape relates to the facade and or relates to the interiors as well. So we have to always think about these things. We're also designed to like a LEED, you say greenhouse standards. You could say that to make sure that we're not using more power than we should per square meter. The client's getting the best value for money, as well as the overall design effect is kind of what everybody has achieved at the end of the day. Because in the Dubai region, whatever you put in the CGI, that's kind of what the client's expecting. If you don't do that, you can get into a lot of trouble. One of the favorite projects I've worked on is the Saudi Expo Pavilion, which was done and commissioned, and it's going to be decommissioned as well. It's won quite a few awards, but you can see that the lighting there's a 2-way glass here. So there's lighting behind the mirror, as well as there's lighting on the floor that projects onto the glass as well. So we're trying to use two-way mirrors to give lighting projection onto the screen as well, and with laser beams on this roof, you could do whatever you want. We have nice Arabic writing on the side, and creating this interior experience, because it's a theatrical space as well, of experience that you want people to experience in these type of areas. You can integrate into water, as well as projecting these scenarios that people can see, like foliage, or you could say foliage there as well. Sorry. And one of the projects that we recently completed is a hotel lobby, where you can see in the hotel lobby, we did not use any downlights, because in the space here, we use clever optics to shoot across the ceiling to give this overall lighting experience. This creates indirect lighting, and we only have two decorative pendants to give you general lighting throughout the space. And also integrating light into the structure itself, as well as the decorative chandelier above. This helps to create a nice feature space as well, because we met the client's brief, we hit on all the light sources, and it can be controlled remotely as well. We do a lot of projects like this. So we can see in Saudi Arabia, we're designing a polo club, but we also started thinking about the well-being of horses. So we designed lighting that could adapt to the horse's circadian rhythm. And what this does is, through our research, they normally have to quarantine for 2 weeks when they come to an international place. Now we can make the quarantine period through the lighting to 4 days, so they're competition ready. And we can trick them so they think they're getting summertime lighting all the time, even though it's winter. So that means they don't grow their thick fur winter coats as well. And also it keeps the most optimal the whole time. A lot in Saudi, we do quite a bit of these approaches in residential villas and apartments, where we do a lot of indirect lighting approaches, where you can see we do lighting on the perimeter, but because we know the FF&E items or the decorative lighting to whoever buys the space, so we provide like power points throughout the space as well. So you can see lighting can be used in different ways without using downlights, without creating the theatrical spaces, especially with places you live. We go to the extent of designing super islands, super cities, and stuff like that. So designing 7 cities bigger than Cape Town, 7 of those at once, of how the streets are being lit up correctly, how the tunnels are lit up, how the apartments, how the stickers are lighted up correctly, to achieve the governmental standards and regulations for this particular area. Each phase of design takes about a year to do. We only finished this project for 2030. That's how slow it is and how big it is in processing the information. So what I like to speak about where lighting is going. So to take a step back, lighting, the first source of light was the sun, and throughout the ages it developed through fire, candles, carbon arc lamp, LED light bulbs, all the way to the next step. And what is the next step? Which is quite exciting, which I get excited about. So now I'm going to speak about data. So now we start about speaking about AI, artificial intelligence, and data through lighting. So everything from your mobile phone, your sensors on your cars, to your whatever points have data receivers. So these data receivers go to a cloud, and it's actually drawing information up and down the whole time. So how do you optimize that information to lighting? We know that on a light source, we can transfer Wi-Fi through a light source to a different Wi-Fi, which has been integrated into smart cities, which we're doing at the moment. So the future of lighting, we'll still look at the basic lighting outputs in architectural spaces or interior spaces, even public realms and master plans, which will be ambient, accenting, and scenic lighting. So ambient lighting will be the lighting from the outside or a luminous wall. The focal lighting will be from a lamp and different aspects as well. Now it becomes a very human-centric, and how sustainable it will become from the components you're using, not actually the light source that's producing. And it becomes very personal as well. So you'll see in this particular image, this metamorphosis of this element here. So we see that lighting will start adapting to the person that's using the spaces. Hotel operators will start adapting this as well. It's just and we've got the technology, how do we use it to integrate lighting into it to make them more optimal, which we started doing in projects, which is very complicated, but it's all related to AI technology. So what I like to show is this particular image. Everybody knows what AI is, but there's a program called DALI, which a lot of architects and interior designers have started to use. I've started to use it for lighting. So you would have seen that lantern switch, which I showed a few minutes ago. And I'll just play a video here. I've taken, this was real time. I've taken a snapshot of that particular room. I dropped it into the AI technology, and I've actually rubbed out part of the room because I want to change the lighting strategy or scenario. Because now we have to use data points from the internet, how we're going to change lighting scenarios and help interior designers as well. So lighting is going in this direction, as well as architecture and interior design, how we can use technology to actually enhance what we're doing and think out the box, where this is pulling from millions of data points around the world to create an optimal space, which is still in its early days of development, but we can see it more and more day to day. I see it more day to day when what I'm doing at the moment. And this normally takes a few minutes or a few seconds to re-render all your images throughout the space. So I'm going to put a nice oil painted cat there while we're waiting. And I typed the thing at the top which said curve lighting on the ceiling with aurora light effect in a hotel room above. And you can see from the original, just being blanked out there, to this dolphin effect as well, because AI can detect what's happening in the room. You can see it in the aquarium. It's doing this water effect, or there's a watery curve there. It produces some type of prismatic skylight, or it's done in some decorative chandelier there. So this is where lighting is going as well. The data inputs around, especially in hotels and stuff like that. If you go to this particular airport in Chicago or in Detroit, let's say that, you as a person will stand in a certain blue block, and you will only see your information because it can detect your height, weight, and who you are as a person. So the person next to you won't see your information, but you can see your information as well. And this is done through lighting, sensors, and software. So you're able to see your pass and tickets, and it starts creating this experiential space that's adapted to you, which we're trying to integrate these into hotels as well, which has been very interesting. Lighting is also very complicated as well to get right. So my sister company has developed a software where you drop a lighting render into the software, and it can detect exactly what the pens is here, what light source is there, what downlights have been used in the space. So it helps to guide the interior architect, MEP consultant to how to correctly light up the space through AI technology. And we've been developing this for 3 years as well on the side in a different company. Hotel spaces and residential spaces are going to start changing to luminous walls, ceilings as well, where it's very personal driven. So you can see there's no use of downlights in the space. It's about creating an atmospheric space that you are sitting in. And you'll see a lot of color being introduced now. Color has a great importance on the well-being of a person, where each color represents something and does a certain thing to the human body. So when you come home and you want to relax, it'll go to pinks or blues or yellows, very energetic to help calm the mind, soothe the brain, and has a lot of effects on the photo cells in people's eyes. We see this being adopted into a lot of airports, as well as signature lounge, as well as little cafe areas and bars, where you're still getting your key principles of lighting, task lighting above the table through the pendant, but you see a funky little curve that's got purple on it, or blues, or pinks. But we know, like, these are romantic couples, so the lights probably change to a pink color to represent something. In office spaces as well, where there's a lot of tension in office spaces, especially here in this region, the lighting can detect, these surface panels can detect the mood of the people, how the meeting is going, and it can change the colors of it to help soften the mood, especially in stressful meetings. Sometimes this will be forever changing, and it's all about wellness. It's all about making the most optimal spaces, about thinking about the person, how they're feeling as well in these very difficult spaces. Lastly, this is the project I spoke about earlier. We're designing public grounds and cityscapes where the lighting is changing to the person that actually uses space. So when people are not in a space, lighting's off. You don't need lighting on. You want to save power and energy. But when you're walking through this public realm, the lighting, it can detect how many people there, and it throws it onto the facade of the building. So it becomes a nice dynamic feature and starts changing how we use spaces, especially in the outdoors as well. We have to be dark sky compliant, you have to be LEED compliant, so STW requirements in this particular region I work in. And that's a short introduction to lighting, where it is and where it's going in the next few years. So if anybody's got any questions, you're welcome to shoot. And I'm just on time.
Before you, I'm going to ask Stefan Fischer to give thanks to you. But before we do that, I also just want to thank all the people that actually made the assembly lectures possible. The logo, the hard work, the sweat and blood and tears that have gone into this whole presentation, and the fact that we'll be continuing with these right into next year, it's probably about July, August, the last Thursday of every month. And with that, I also just want to thank you for another brilliant lecture. I guess you always inspire us, but I'd like Stefan to just end it off for us. It's been a real storm on organizing this for us.
It has been great. Thanks, Des. Really enjoyed it.
Super.
Yeah, I won't take up too much time. I'll just echo what Des was saying. Thanks to everyone who's helped put this together. But more importantly, thank you, Gio. It was a really interesting presentation, and it's quite amazing what you were saying at the beginning, how important light actually really is, and how we don't sometimes necessarily remember that or realize that, how it affects our psychology and the way that we engage with space as a whole. So I don't know if there's any questions. I know Colleen might have one or two questions in her head, and Rob has one question.
I don't really have a question, more of a comment. I think it's so cool to see. I love your the future of lighting, and I think there's a really intersection between lighting, architecture, and experience and interaction design. That seems like a really fun space to be in the future.
Yeah, it's definitely fun because we started adapting that technology into hospitals, because we design hospitals as if it was a hotel. So you don't want to be there when it's very white lights and very draining. You want to be there like how this lighting is adapting to you as a person to make you recover faster. It's been very interesting.
Amazing, Gio. Thank you so much. That was so inspiring. Just like my head is just gone. Thank you.
Hi, can I just say thank you very much from my side too. It's Colleen speaking. And I wanted to know whether Giovanni is actually in Johannesburg, or are you delivering this from Dubai?
I'm actually delivering from Dubai, so it's around 6:30 at the moment sometime.
Oh, okay. Well, I really found the parts on AI very fascinating, because that's extremely new to me, but I've got a great appreciation for what you do. And I actually thought you were in Joburg because two of my ex-colleagues, Siddharth Mathur and Vinod Pillay, they did a trip to Joburg at this exact time. So I thought there was something happening in Joburg, that all the Dubai people are flying to Johannesburg. But
yeah, I'll say there's a lot of in Johannesburg, the trend is a lot of new hotels being put up now, especially in Cape Town. So I was in Johannesburg and Cape Town 3 weeks ago to go and get 4 new projects in Cape Town as well as Johannesburg. So people are really starting to build the economy there. So it's been fun.
Okay, I've got an interesting question I'd just like to ask you, which I'm curious about. You said you were involved in hospital designs, and way back in the years, you had to be so careful in terms of the light you specified, especially when it came to the color rendering index, because occasionally people would die of cyanosis, which is oxygen deprivation, and the doctors and nurses were not picking it up because the actual CRI of the fittings installed in the hospital weren't accurately displaying the facial color of these patients. Do LEDs present the same problems, or have you actually experienced that in doing hospital design, or is that an archaic concept?
It's still valid today because you still get LED chips that producing a minimum of 80 or 70 CR, which is equivalent to this image on the left, which is very, right, it's very poor. So when we're doing our specifications, we have to make sure that we treat it like almost like a Bible, to make sure that the contractor as well as the client follow that we go 90 or 99, even up to 99, to show that the color on the faces is true representation of it. In hospitals, we're very strict about these things and make sure that they follow the specification 100% to make sure it's right. And what we back in the days, they used to use a lot of 4,000, 5,000 Kelvin, which is very white light to overcome this. But now with the technology today, you can go all the way to 3,000, 2,700, because you've got the high CRI, which still gives you this great effect, but the lighting in the hospital is much warmer. It helps the cardiac of the person rest much easier than the white light.
That's very interesting. That's very responsive to wellness in hospitals. So I'm happy to hear that. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed your talk, and thank you to Des for the invite.
Thanks, Connie. It's lovely to have you here. And I think, Gia, when you come down to South Africa, you've got to go and give a talk at CPUT. And I would love to see you back here at GDC as well.
I'll definitely pop up.
No pressure, no pressure. Just tell me, great to see you.
Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.